before I came on, you kind of maligned the notion, and reasonably so, the notion that you can't know anything. First off, I want to get this out of the I certainly don't believe that it is impossible to know something. I think there was that the little kid that you had on, or that you blasted at one time, who kind of self-contradiction was said, the only thing that we can know is that we can't know anything.
Yeah.
I'll just go ahead and give you what I've got printed up here. And it is simply that, simply because of the fact that presuppositions can't be proven, can't be known by everyone. In other words, if someone says, I don't believe that, then how can you know that you believe it? And if you can't back it up of itself, then it can't be known. It certainly can't be proven in any kind of objective sense. So what I would say, and what I would argue, conventional and traditional philosophy has held, is that, in fact, the only things that can be proven are axiomatic principles, self-contained truths. And it's hard to kind of put into words, but the one thing that I do want to challenge you on, and this is my biggest point, and I really wanted to get this in at the beginning, but I didn't. Is I want you to give me a definition of presuppositionalism that you really will stick to. Kind of a like if you give me the example, and I give you an example of a presupposition that would fit through the block, and is, for instance, ridiculous.
Yeah, well, I've actually given I've done a video tag where I kind of describe what presuppositions are, what presuppositionalism is. But I want to deal with this chronologically if I can. You mentioned that presuppositions can't be known. Now, we don't believe that. Okay, we believe they can. We believe that the only way they can be known is through the transcendental argument, or what is known as the impossibility of the contrary. Now, you mentioned, well, that's axiomatic. Well, that may be true. The problem here, and I've dealt with this actually with there was another guy, 8-foot man-child, and he kept saying, well, but this is axiomatic and this is axiomatic, and I said, but the thing is I said there are necessary preconditions for the possibility of an axiom. Axioms aren't just axioms in any environment whatsoever. They are axiomatic in this specific environment, and we're asking, how can you account for this environment wherein this axiom can even be possible at all? And so that's something I actually dealt with in great length in that video, responding to him, talking about the whole thing about axioms. But you mentioned that everything is belief, and I always use kind of a rather silly example, but I think it's true, and I think that maybe this is down to earth. Is we all are you a vegan, a vegetarian?
No.
Okay, so
fortunately,
okay. Do you eat at McDonald's ever?
Very, very rarely.
No, okay, well, yeah, let's just say McDonald's, right? And you go up and you say, well, I want to order, a Big Mac and fries and a shake, and so that's whatever, number one or whatever, I don't know what number it is. And the person behind the counter ends up ringing you up something that comes out to like $17. Now, you would say, well, that's, you're absolutely crazy. And they say, well, no, I've got this here, and so on and so on. But let's say you trim it back down, so it's still absurd, but you're still paying it. And then he says, okay, just go on out and wait, and we'll bring it out to you. And then when he brings it out to you, you have a chicken sandwich, okay? And instead of fries, you have like an apple pie. And instead of a shake, you have a soft drink. And you're sitting there, by now you're ticked, okay? Now we're not talking here what must be something. Okay, we're talking about conventions. We're talking about, well, I'm saying that this is a Big Mac and whatnot. And ultimately, it comes down, like, if you complained and the manager came up and said, well, I don't know what you're complaining about. This is a Big Mac, shake and fries. And you're sitting there saying, are you freaking crazy? This is a chicken sandwich. This is an apple pie, and this is a stinking pop. And he would look at you and say, well, that's just what you believe. I mean, would you be content with that?
Oh, no, I mean, absolutely not.
Would you know that that's not a Big Mac?
No, I would not know. I'll tell you right now. It's a great point that you bring up, and this is actually one of the kind of the biggest problems. There are, of all the things, if you look at any dictionary, that has the definition of proof, which is every dictionary on earth, I'm sure. it says things. It doesn't say things like knowledge or evidence sufficient, like evidence that is true. It doesn't say evidence that this or that or the other. It says anything or evidence. For instance, right here I've got evidence sufficient to establish a thing is true, to produce belief in its truth. The establishment of and the reason I'm saying this is because once again we're back to the axiomatic things that I said at first. Things don't have to be accepted if they're not. 2 + 2 = 4. But
yeah.
But given as the way that and this is kind of it's kind of shaky territory to argue on, but the way things work is that there are a lot of axioms that, although aren't are a lot of propositions that, although they're not self-evident truth, they are almost universally accepted. And so if say I were to reject this, if I were to say that I don't know that this is the case, I don't know that this is the case, it is at the risk of me being regarded as foolish, of me being regarded as whatever. But strictly speaking, by the first things that we mentioned, that we both at the time I thought agreed upon, my position alone would be logically tenable. It would be. I personally would think that someone that denied that was silly, because these are you're when you call someone silly, you're kind of working off of some kind of an empiricist assumption or any other number of things. But that's the way that belief works. There are certain beliefs that are backed more heavily by most people's evidence, and as we've already talked about, we have differing measures of evidence.
Well, and that's kind of the point, is that we've got all these different beliefs, and all those beliefs have backing evidence, and each party kind of thinks the other party's kind of crazy. I think that's where the presuppositionalist says, okay, we're not really getting anywhere here. Okay, we think you're crazy, you think we're kind of off the hook. We need to go back and look at those most foundational and fundamental things in order to decide who's right and who even can account for knowing anything. And I mean, and even if something is universally accepted,
right,
or universally regarded as, well, the Big Mac's a Big Mac.
It is not proven.
It's not. Yeah, it's not true. I mean, you can sit there and say, well, that's not a Big Mac,
right,
but it is to discuss those. How is even belief possible? How what are the preconditions for belief? I mean, what is the environment wherein belief is even possible? I think that's a good debate that atheists and theists can have together.
Here, let me. Am I running out?
Sure. No, you got 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna give you one example, and I just want to ask this. And it's really quick. It's kind of like the McDonald's, but just in reverse.
Yeah, sure.
Say we accept presuppositionalism. Say this is my presupposition. Just the first thing, the thing that I want you to accept, and I think it counts for everything else, is this: the entire universe is actually a garishly elaborate figment of my imagination. The phone, coldness, the rings of Saturn, I don't know, the history of our species, the uniformity of nature. It's all the way that it is because I'm imagining it. That's the way that it is, and everything in existence is necessarily. If that is granted, if the truth of my initial proposition that everything in the universe is my imagination is true, how would that presupposition be weeded out? Is my question.
Well, I would kick the guy in the crotch. Okay, and then I would ask him. I'd say, was that a figment of your imagination? And I'd just keep doing it.
And I'd say yes. But
if he keeps saying yes, well, that's perfectly fine. It's like the way we would weed it out is we'd say, okay, a presupposition isn't just one. It's not just one claim. It's a network. Well, a worldview isn't just one claim. It's a network of related presuppositions about various different things in life. And we'd simply say, listen, is what you say, does it fall on its own claim, or can it stand on its own claim? Can it account? And if the guy wants to believe that, more power to him. I mean, if he wants to think that way, then literally there should be no moral repugnancy to taking a gun and shooting him. Unfortunately,
I mean, sure.
But unfortunately, you and I can stand relatively confident that if we did that, we'd have a knock on the door by the cops. And so, I guess I'm not going to take that. I'm not going to take that leap of faith like the Looney Tunes.